I put the razzle-dazzle rose crayon back in the box, and I pull out the black crayon.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television, a million little pieces.
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all, 'cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books. God, this is more true than ever this time around. I'm J.W. Friedman.
I'm Chris Collision, and we have a special guest. Wait, you're supposed to be mad about the book, not about being a guest.
I'm Lauren Parker, and I read this.
She's so mad at us, you guys.
What did we read?
We read 1 Million Small Things. We read All the Small Things by Blink-182.
Well, thank you for leaving flowers on the stairs. I needed it after I got through A Million Little Pieces by Mr. James Frey.
And I'm just let's put a hat on this. You're gonna say Frey because you think it's right. I'm gonna say Fry because I think he's secretly related to Glenn Fry of the Eagles, and I think both of them can go fuck themselves.
Yeah, I don't care because this man is terrible.
Good answer.
Before we get to the content within, why don't we spend a couple of seconds here talking about the cover, which is baffling.
So I'm the only one with an actual hard copy. I don't know what the electronic version is, but it wasn't until I busted out my freshly reined-in Philadelphia dirt-crusted copy that it registered for everyone else here that these are tiny little and then they're the shittiest sprinkles. They're the little round ones that are like dusty.
Okay, but take a step back. It is literally just a picture of a man's hand
Coated in chocolate.
not in chocolate.
No, there's no visual.
It's not even the good chocolate.
It's just shadow.
Oh.
Just with those like little ice cream colored dots.
Yeah.
That don't taste like anything.
I believe they're called confetti sprinkles as opposed to the normal full-size good sprinkles you get. They're
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the multicolored ones that are little spheres.
Oh yeah, not
Yeah.
not the longer ones that you also sometimes find on a donut.
Yes.
Another fine food.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, these are the shit sprinkles.
They
You're right,
are
Lauren.
they're smaller, but this book isn't. So I feel lied to.
So this cover made no sense to me, and I said so, and then both of you were like, "Oh, it's because of his eating thing." And okay, I guess we should actually say this right off the top. The content of this book has some problems,
Yes.
up to and including suicidal thoughts, self-harm,
Addiction,
some homophobia. So if these are going to be issues,
We get
I
it.
don't think they're going to be issues, but
Yeah.
yeah, we get it. And be warned. And if you feel like it, sit this one out. It won't hurt our feelings.
You probably already know about this book and you already know about its pedigree and you know how serious to take it. So if you think that that's going to be upsetting, you probably already made up your mind.
And-
but just in case, consider yourself warned.
And if you do, I am now mad at you for not telling me.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, boy.
I think all of us in our own ways have had to come to terms with the fact that, I mean, Jay, you and I do this for not a living, but we do this a lot. I am hard pressed to think of a book that I actually think is worse than this.
I agree, and for many reasons that we'll get deeper into moving
Yeah.
forward. But before we do, I think we should try to
Holy
just
crap.
sum up what this is about with a plot in 60 seconds.
Nobody knows if you win it or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot is 60 seconds.
So in Plot in 60 Seconds, we provide exactly 1 minute to try to sum up the complicated narrative of this James Frey's completely true tale. Are you prepared, Lauren?
I am prepared.
TikTok hotshot.
All right.
Let's go now.
A character named James, who may or may not be the author, depending on which lawyer you talk to, goes to rehab at 23 and meets a guy from Goodfellas, and then that's it for 450 pages.
That's pretty straight on. You win the prize.
Did I make it?
We should talk about like some of the other little things. So he's a magical 23-year-old who's got the worst addictions ever.
He's got also like an 18-year experience running drugs on the street. Somehow
Yeah.
it seems like, despite being a 22-year-old.
Yeah. He goes to the world's greatest rehab center. somewhere outside Minneapolis. So I think it's supposed to be Betty Ford.
It's supposed to be Hazelden, which
Hazelden,
is a
okay.
real place. Yeah.
He instantly makes two really good friends, one of whom is a former middleweight boxing champion, one of whom is a mafia don of the West Coast.
Let's call it like it is. One of them who is Tony Soprano.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like ripped from the screen.
Yeah. The other of whom is, I don't know, one of Rocky's less successful friends.
Or
also
some character from
ripped
Oz.
the screen. Yeah.
And like all men in books, he gets a girl. Just given to him, just hand it over.
Falls in deep, desperate love with a girl named Lily.
Yeah.
So white, so pure, so broken.
Her eyes were chipped off of an Arctic ice block, as we are reminded fucking 1,000 times.
Yeah, every 4 pages, we're reminded that she is a blue-eyed brunette.
Yep.
And we're also repeatedly reminded that she's very skinny. And at the end, you guys, she hangs herself because he's 2 days late.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she becomes his reason to live.
Right.
And this creates something that, I mean, I'm reluctant to even come close to this trope, but she can kind of only be described as manic pixie crack user.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like a mad lady about this, which is like on the list of like transgressions is sort of at 12 because this book's real bad.
Yeah, and we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, but he introduces her with all of the fact that she had to whore to support her mother's heroin habit, and then whore for her own habit and became an addict later, which is sort of like Penny Dreadful-esque introduction of a character where it's like, this whore in rehab who I'm going to fix with my love because of her beautiful eyes.
He also, it's worth noting, seduces her over the course of 2 conversations, or, causes her to fall in love with him over the course of 2 conversations that are exclusively about how much he misses his ex-girlfriend and how broken up he is about her, including an entire conversation about, like, for a year I tried to take her virginity but couldn't because I couldn't maintain an erection. And she's just like even more charmed every time he tells her to. Like there's actually a line where he's like, I shouldn't have told you that. And she's like, I'm glad you told it to me because it's true and hard and difficult and angry and sad and beautiful. Because that's how people talk in this book.
As a retired manic pixie dream girl, 1, the benefits are terrible. But 2, I, as a 19-year-old, probably would have fallen for that. So I'm going to give her a little bit of credibility, but she literally has no other personality traits, which is actually kind of a small mercy.
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't kind of read something like this, I feel like, since we talked about Candy Girl, the Diablo Cody thing, and that other people in this book don't exist.
Yeah.
Like, they are characters, like, created to, like, further a part of a story, and they are treated as such. Like, nobody in this really has any humanity except for our narrator. Everyone else is objectified in quite literal, like a very literal fashion.
Even his girlfriend, like, okay, he meets her in rehab, right? She is visibly a danger to herself.
Yes.
There's a conversation they have, and like, if this were deliberate to like show that the character's a shitheel, it would have been good, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because it's just part and parcel of how he acts about everybody. When someone's not right in front of him, he forgets they exist. He doesn't have object permanence yet.
Yeah.
And so she basically says, I'm really upset and I have to go back. I hope I don't self-harm. And he's like, okay. And then he goes and like has a big meal and watches a boxing match with his buddy and falls asleep happily.
Well,
bro, this lady has the capacity for some substantial self-violence.
yeah, well, I mean, the thing is when Poochie isn't on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's Poochie? And James has made himself the Poochie of his own quote-unquote memoir. We're already getting into it, so let's go ahead and roll into this with some structure. High points, low points. Here's that jam.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
All right, so high points, low points. We're going to go around the room and try to salvage some good points of this book and then wallow in the muck of the bad. Lauren, would you like to lead us off here? We like to start with high points.
Sure.
So if you got one, I know it was super hard for
Good
me.
luck with that.
I will say this book was actually worse than that Tori Amos memoir, which is kind of saying a lot.
Yep.
But I did have a high point, and this might be kind of a weird one. But as a writer, every time I read a terrible book, I'm hopeful because this bad book was clearly written in a weekend. I could have written this, and he printed money with it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I could do this. So it gives me hope. Thank you, James Frey.
That is
because if making art with actual integrity to it doesn't work out for me, I always have this to fall back on. You've blazed my trail.
I'm gonna call you Serena because you got that backhand. Let's roll on over here to me. My first high point is that, look, I'm not going to challenge anybody's credentials here. I think it's been well documented by this point that if you've heard the name of this book, you know that Frey is a bullshit artist and that a lot of this didn't happen. So in addition to, you know, some of the details of his crimes being provably not even close to what they were, which we'll get into after this segment for sure, there are a few points in this book where I feel like he kind of reveals himself to be working in the realm of like a pastiche of shit I've seen on TV, and he doesn't realize that he's doing that. Like one of the sections where he describes like his most rock bottom darkest moment is where he says he quote unquote had a girl snort lines off my penis, which is...
No, you didn't.
No, that never happened. That would be very difficult logistically in many ways. Like, how the fuck do you line up something on someone's penis and beyond
it's
that...
curved, generally.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it's not, like, you know, that's a process that involves some fine motor skills for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not very realistic, but it's one of my high points because... penis coke is a really funny concept, and I just love like how silly it is. It almost reminded me of like in Bill O'Reilly's book where he's talking about street gangs and their crack dens. It seemed just as divorced from reality as that.
We should talk about this a little bit, but yeah, this book is just chock-a-block with things that absolutely never happened. Again, I'm not here to call out anybody's credentials, but there's like this 2-sentence stretch where they're talking about this boxing match. Like, Jesus God, this guy loves to talk about how he's about to watch boxing on TV. But there's a thing where a group of men are sitting around.
Oh yes, while they're in rehab.
And he describes it like this. You know, Dave and Jimmy knew the most about it, so they did most of the talking. I was like, nope. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
Do you know how I know? Because I've met men before. Yeah. That's not how that works.
And add men to drug addicts, and you get a really interesting combination of people who will gladly talk about things they don't know about. I've been there.
Yeah.
So I guess we're supposed to still be doing high points.
I do have a high point.
Okay.
So the experience of reading this book, like, he thinks he's so gruff and he thinks he's so evil, and the whole book sounds like it's in a death metal growl.
Christian Bale Batman.
Yes.
Danzig.
But the problem is, like, he has less on his mind than Danzig. Yeah. He's not angry like Christian Bale. So this was a huge high point for me. Just the anger on the page when he describes this. I stand and I walk back to the unit, and the dew on the dead grass soaks through my shoes, and I watch my feet break. The crystalline perfection of the morning's drops, and the drops are just another thing I've destroyed, another thing I can't fix or bring back, another beautiful thing ruined by my carelessness. Motherfucker, you're walking through dew. You're upset about walking through dew. That is the best self-parody I think I've ever read. And I've read David Brooks recently.
It's just full of that kind of stuff. The new metal factor of this book is ratcheted through the chains. There are entire sections of this that could be lyrics to an unreleased Korn song.
Oh my God.
Like right down to the cadence.
The whole book is like several Korn songs.
All right, low points. Let's get us rolling here.
I actually have one more high point.
We come back to those. We do the compliment
We
sandwich.
like a compliment sandwich right now.
I see. Okay, that's fair.
Low point, Lauren.
It's so hard to choose. This makes a really complicated drinking game, considering that he is in rehab for alcoholism.
Yeah. I've decided I'm going to drink while we record this because I'm giving this book the credence it deserves.
For me, as a creative writing major, and as somebody who writes things and makes word art, This is a very frustrating book. It's very long. There's not a lot of cohesion, and it's just not good.
Yeah. It's written very poorly.
It is. It's a very poorly written work.
I'm gonna roll into my my first low point right from that, and it's very similar, but I would just say that the tone is aggressively bad. It's like, you know how there are companies who make frozen meals for men, or
Hungry Man.
butt wipes for men. That's an actual thing that exists. Baby wipes for men in a camouflage package. This book is like treacle for men. It really feels to me it was like Chicken Soup of the Soul vibe, like filtered through that lens of mid-aughts hyper-masculinity when metrosexual was still like a derogatory term, Like, it's a Lifetime movie produced by Axe Body Spray.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, like, without getting into, like, any of the issues with the story itself, the tone of the narrative is like getting lectured about life by the living embodiment of Guy Fieri's haircut. Or, like, Dr. Phil in cargo pants, jamming the word fuck into every sentence while Sugar Ray plays in the background. So... That's my first low point, I guess, is the tone of the book.
That was a beautiful statement. Thank you.
Similar to the tone, we have not talked at all about the actual prose of this book.
Yeah.
And I just want to read a couple of very short bits, because that's my low point, is that this is the worst written book I've ever read. Mm-hmm. This is worse than Gore. This is worse than Eye of Argon, pre-me, but still an amazing read.
Yeah.
This is worse written than Eye of Argon.
It is so much, because Eye of Argon had no pretenses of literary worthiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will not, could not, don't want to give that smile up. Motherfucker, you're trying to sound tough, and you sound like bad Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Like, the fury is rising. I don't want to see my parents. Like, okay, yeah, we're back to Korn song,
You've unleashed the evil inside. I will not take the trash out. You can't pause Halo, Mom.
Yeah, there's also this, like, recurring thing, like, he's, like, fantasizing about his big friend, and he's like, I hadn't seen her in a decade. You're 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out, like, yep, he actually is talking about this girl that he's still, like, carrying a torch for from when he was 13.
We need to talk about this more. So put a pin in that. Like, put an asterisk next to it in your notes, because this is one of the creepiest parts of the real life story behind this book.
And
But yeah, so I do want to come back to that. But yeah, I agree.
And just one other point about how badly this book is written. Guys, what does this book not have?
Punctuation.
Quote marks.
Quotes.
Yeah.
None of the dialogue is in quotes.
Oh, but you know what it does have?
Lots of capital letters.
Yeah, title case for no fucking reason. It would be like, I was watching it on capital T television when I saw the capital G guards coming to the capital U unit.
Yeah, but it's not even like title case has rules.
Yeah.
Like, this is just some nouns that seem important to him, mostly abstract nouns. They're always like, I walked into the room. Like, I saw a guard, like, it reminded me I was in prison. Like, it's just sprinklings of fucking capitals for no reason. And then it's deliberate, and it's almost all nouns, but, like, towards the end he gets a little sloppy, and he'll, like, slip in the occasional capitalized adjective, and it just made me even more angry.
Yeah, he can't even follow his own style guide, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more round of low points. Lauren, do you got one?
So
I mean, I'm sure you have many, but let's pick just one for now.
So I'm gonna slow it down. I'm gonna get a little personal. I'm somebody who are very important people in my life have recently gotten sober, and that's been a thing that I've been close to, a thing that I've not been close to for some people. But a very dear friend of mine recently is going through the program, and watching this person break down and detox and do all of these things is a really horrible experience. And this fucking theater that James Frey wrote,
it's insulting.
It really it is, because it made, like, and it's not even about the details. I think it's sort of the whole landscape of he was just mining an experience to make a book, And some of it is that I'm not sure addiction makes for good writing because a lot of it is repetition. A lot of it is like tedious. Like it's a lot of repeated ritual behavior.
Yeah. And
it
about
doesn't
learning structure.
Yeah, you're creating you're disassembling a part of your daily life. Like it would be like you learning to not like wake up and start with an egg sandwich, but it's way more catastrophic than that.
Yeah,
so it doesn't make
yeah.
for good memoir or good novel as we've seen. But it just bothered me so much as somebody who's like watched the struggle of somebody go through that, and several people go through that, to have like this shit. And this is like the assholery that I didn't want to see in the universe.
Yeah.
And it's here.
I agree 100%. And I think it kind of rolls into my next low point, which is like, this book is framed by a lot of people, and I think the author itself is like a story of redemption, which fucking baffles me because the character Frey in this book, if not the real person, he never redeems himself beyond the fact that he stops doing drugs. Like, he never comes to terms with himself or like the destructiveness of his behavior. He never even like really evolves as a character. He just spends the entire narrative like gloating about how much smarter he is than the people around him and how he doesn't need the tools of recovery that are provided to him, and he's too strong for that. Like,
too strong and too special.
Yeah, and it's not a book about redemption. Like, I don't know what you'd call it, but it is definitely not that.
It's definitely not that, and it's just so lazily written on a text level, on a structure level, and on a moral level. There's this repeated thing where
There's no empathy in this.
Well, there's no empathy, but like here's why there can't be any redemption. There's this repeated thing where he sits around and plays cards with his buddies, including the Mafia Don. The Mafia Don always wins, but then always gives everybody their money back. The big tension in the book is supposedly that he's wanted in 3 states and is going to have to go to prison for a long time. Except that his 2 best friends, the Mafia Don and a black federal judge, who I'm going to talk about in a second,
Oh, yeah.
conspire to get all the charges dropped such that not only will the charges get dropped if he goes to jail for 6 months, but if he keeps his nose clean, his record will also be...
How convenient.
Exactly. His record will also be cleared. And when we get to the meta part of this a little bit later,
Yeah.
it's real convenient that nobody can find any evidence that he went to jail. Wink, wink, wink. But I just want to say that it's incredible. Like, there can't be any redemption because there's no actual suffering, because there's no actual consequences, because at the end of every card game, everybody gets their money back.
In summary,
instead of going to
fuck you,
prison,
buddy.
his made-up magical judge friend erases all the consequences.
Wait, are you saying the black character is magical?
Can I do my low point?
Yes.
Wow.
There is a scene in this book where he is reading the Tao Te Ching in rehab,
Oh, yeah. There's more than one
discovering
scene.
white jazz, while a magic black judge he's just met blows jazz clarinet in the background just for him.
It's the worst thing.
This scene would have gotten scornful laughter in every movie theater in the world.
Yeah.
And most writing workshops ever.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you mentioned Diablo Cody's book. Like, in that episode, when we were talking about that, at one point, Lemon just started screaming, "Fuck you!"
Yeah.
And to this day, that's what goes through my head sometimes. And that went through my head reading this scene.
Yeah, like, it absolutely did not happen in that way. In no way was your quote-unquote capitalized black friend playing
Yeah.
you Benny Goodman tunes
Yeah.
on his clarinet while you read the I
like-
Ching or whatever the fuck. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah, it's as though, I got out of prison. I walked into my girlfriend's house. She looks kind of like Kelly McGillis from Top Gun.
Ugh.
Some music was playing in the background that sounded like Berlin from Top Gun. It was sweaty and gauzy, and it was a lot like Top Gun, and then we made Top Gun love.
It's very similar.
With that little, like, teeth click
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. All right, so we've got to end this on a high note. So let's go out with some high points.
It can't be done, I tell you.
It can't, but after this, we're
I
going
can't. I can do one.
All right, yeah,
We
go
can
for
do
it,
it.
Lauren.
He is from Cleveland, and he's only the 1,051st worst person from Cleveland.
That's a good point. There are a lot of awful people in Cleveland.
So there we go.
Yep.
Wait, I read Harvey Pekar was from Cleveland, right?
That is true, yeah.
And I kept thinking about Harvey Pekar while reading this because Harvey Pekar was kind of this like poet of the mundane, champion of the working man, but you could also say that Harvey Pekar was boring, repetitive, and didn't have a lot of insight. What is it about white guys from Cleveland that makes them so boring, repetitive, and devoid of insight?
It's because they're surrounded by more of them.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look in the music scene, like, try to think of a good band from Cleveland. Pere Ubu, that's one.
I got nothing.
See, because I keep coming up with like Integrity, One Life Crew.
Yikes.
Like all these like victory record bands that are defined by like kind of put on over the top blue collar aggression.
Yeah. So this book, you mentioned like a lot of it being something like Korn. To me, a lot of it read like a bad Youth Crew record.
Yeah, for sure.
There's this one section like, this is the advice he gets from his mafia mentor. And this is repeated verbatim 3 times in the course of the book. Be smart. Be strong. Be proud. Live honorably and with dignity. And just hold on. Except that... like,
break.
Yeah.
Down the walls.
Except that, like, since I'm a dork, my exposure to most of this was actually through the greatest band of all time.
Good, clean fun?
No, even better. Don't hate. Lift weights. And for God's sake, don't masturbate. A band had songs about be kind, rewind. It was just a parody of Youth Crew.
Okay.
And it's the best thing ever.
What were they called?
I'm spacing it right now.
Oh, man. You can't do that.
Crucial Youth.
Oh, Crucial Youth. Okay, yeah.
But not only does it sound like Youth Crew idiot hardcore, it sounds like a parody of idiot Youth Crew hardcore.
Angry Samoans also fell in that camp for sure. Parody of idiot Youth Crew hardcore. But yeah, I could hear that for
Angry
sure.
Samoans were in fact good.
Yeah.
And this is in fact the worst fucking thing that's ever happened.
Man. Sorry, we're just going down this white guy music
boy,
rabbit hole.
I am not doing a good job of high pointing. Jay, do you have a high point?
I do have a high point, and I think it's as a fabulous Frey is somewhat unmatched. And if you read like the constant self kind of aggrandizing as comedy, it's actually pretty hilarious as long as you forget that this was ever purported to be true. Like he can't just get a DUI. He has to blow a .36 and quote unquote set a county record.
Yes. What is he, Tim Allen?
Yeah, and exactly.
Yeah, he rewired his liver.
He can't just get in a bar fight. He has to hit a dude from behind with a metal chair and leave him for dead. And like he can't.
I'm sorry, that's called a sucker punch, and fuck you if you do that.
There's no honor in that for sure. Speaking of Youth Crew. Also, he can't just sell weed in college. Like, he has to be so good at it that the FBI gets called in to investigate him for selling weed. And so if you, like, kind of detach this from the concept that this is supposed to be true and just read it as a hilarious example of kind of over-the-top fabulism, ooh, boy, it's entertaining. So that's my high point for sure.
There are a couple of high points just based on unintentional hilarity.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of them that I want to read. So one is he talks a lot about the Fury. And the Fury, in case you're wondering, dear listener,
it's not the symbiote from the Spider-Man comics, even though you'd be hard-pressed to think otherwise.
Yeah. But in case you're wondering, yes, it's capitalized. But there's this moment where it's like, the Fury screams, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. And all of a sudden, I think it's like a bad ska song. And so that was fun. That was a real high point.
The Fury, ooh, I feel the Fury. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Yeah, totally.
There's this moment like where he's trying to describe his girlfriend who's relapsing, doing crack. And he just says, she sucks so hard her cheeks are caving in.
Much like this book, she sucks so hard.
And I just couldn't not laugh at that. And then like there's these like he strives occasionally for these like big poignant moments, like they hug in the way that only women can hug each other. Like
boob to boob.
Yeah.
There is no hesitation between them, and there is no distance, no emotional distance, no physical distance, no distance of any kind.
They're also
Untrue.
both holding wine coolers.
Yeah, like
this is my
That's also
perception
untrue.
of women.
When women hug each other, we're pelvises apart. We leave room for Jesus. I don't understand this.
yeah, and like this is how he gets hugged though. She held me strong and thin, and she told me she never wanted to let go of me.
I could feel her boobs all up on my chest.
His description of his girlfriend is another huge high point. This is him talking about his girlfriend to his parents. She's cool. She's smart. She listens to me.
Gross. I don't know why.
You said too much, my man.
That
You
is
said too
amazing
much.
right there. I think on that note, let's take a little break. I think we're going to do a special thing this time around. This needs to be a 4-segment show because we need to talk about what I've been referring to as the meta before we proceed into games. So let's take a break. Then let's come back and talk about the circumstances of this weird ass fucking book.
Yeah.
All right.
Today, are we looking for a better way? People of the world unite. Let's make a difference, we can get it right. Let's make a difference, we can get it right. We are a positive hardcore band. We are ready to take a stand. We know the future's in all our hands. We are a positive hardcore band.
All right. So if you've been listening to this, you're probably like, hey, I know about this book. This book is bullshit. How come they haven't been talking about how this book is bullshit? And it's because we're saving it until now. So we can do nothing but talk about how this book is bullshit. So earlier off mic, Lauren, you definitely mentioned this is a crazy story. So I kind of wanted to hand things off to you, and you can kind of lead this discussion because I think we need to tell the people at home about this book in case they're unfamiliar with the story surrounding it.
So, when you read a terrible book, what you do is fall down rabbit holes doing anything else. I went through all my emails and deleted a bunch. But in that time of me organizing my files and thinking about what I want to do to update my website, I also fell down the rabbit hole of James Frey's life. Mm-hmm. Because I am like, this is a man that got blasted on television by Oprah.
Yeah.
She put him on the book club list back when Oprah was a all-powerful source, and now she's more behind the scenes. And she like screamed at him on air.
I want it clear. Everybody here still believes Oprah is all powerful.
Yeah.
Do not come at us. We bow.
No.
We bend the knee.
Don't at me.
We're not tugging the tiger's tail.
Love
here.
her interview with Neil Patrick Harris. It's great.
Yeah.
We're all good.
Mother of Dragons, we're on your side.
But it was sort of interesting to me. So obviously I've read the Smoking Gun article. It doesn't, I mean, it sort of affirmed.
Let's back up. This book comes out. Oprah picks it as a
sort of
book club book. It blows up, sells even more copies, and then the Smoking Gun outs him. Okay.
After the sequel has even been published.
Yes. So the book comes out in 2003. The paperback first edition, which I am the proud owner of.
Whoa.
Comes out in
humble brag.
In 2004. In which it's already kind of it's making its way into Oprah's list. Oprah says basically that she couldn't put the book down, which is baffling. It's so put downable. I don't understand. And he was on he was on her book list for about, I think, at least 2 years. And that, of course, pushed him into bestseller. So it was like it came out. I'm not sure that there was a whole lot of traction with it. And then by the time the paperback edition comes out, which is customarily about a year later, it was on her book club list. So they slapped it on there. And he made it printed money with it because that's how that works. And then the next novel, My Friend Leonard, comes out. The next book, My Friend Leonard, comes out. And essentially around the time that it comes out, I believe it comes out in 2005. 2006 is when she really explodes on him, because about that time the Smoking Gun article comes out that basically everything that he has said about Earth is incorrect, and that none of his stories check out, and it was called A Million Little Lies, I believe.
Yeah, let's pause here and talk about this article and what this thing actually is. And that this is a book that is marketed as a memoir, and at no point in it does it even say that names have been changed or that stories have been exaggerated. This is presented as canonical fact.
Right.
And a couple years after its publication, some people started looking for records of all these arrests that he mentioned, or all of these stints of being investigated by the FBI. And surprisingly, nobody could find anything. But the smoking gun.
That's because the judge got his record cleared, man.
Yeah.
So-
that black jazz blowing.
So this is a complicated issue for me as somebody who, one, is a writer, and two, like, has had a story happen to them once, and like, you know, and wants to write about it. But Augustin Burroughs kind of went through something similar, except for it was people coming forward saying this isn't how it really happened. My family works really differently. It is really surprising to me that, you know, in this, and I have the like kind of original copy, that there isn't like a warning that, you know, any resemblance to people is, you know, coincidental. You know, like those are things that people customarily still do for memoirs, because the memory is a fallible thing.
But let me read what it says if you buy this from a popular digital book distributor today.
I see.
Here is the disclaimer that you get. This book is a combination of facts about James Frey's life and certain embellishments. Names, dates, places, events, and details have been changed, invented, and altered for literary effect.
Okay.
The reader should not consider this book anything other than a work of literature. Now, I took this at its word and basically have only tried to look at it as a work of literature.
Correct.
And that is why I have such insightful, piercing judgments as A Million Little Pieces, wish he'd had one good idea, or A Million Little Pieces, more like 1,000 shitty sentences.
This book also came out at a really interesting time in 2003, where you'd had David Sedaris had just started gaining ground. Augustin Burroughs was a big deal. I think he's taken a back burner now. And so I could see how this would sort of be in keeping of it. And in some ways, making it a memoir is the only thing that gives it literary integrity.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, this kind of ties into something that my research turned up here, was that you get two competing stories based on whether you believe Frey or whether you believe his agent. Mm-hmm. And he claims that he sent it to his agent as a novel, and the word memoir was tacked onto it against his like massive like protest. Like he was like, that is not the case. This isn't true. It's a novel.
Oh, I remember him telling everybody about that right as soon as it came out.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't remember
And on
that.
Oprah's show.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
like,
sorry.
I mean, here's the thing that I think is that like, even if you give them the benefit of the doubt and you're like, yes, that may be the case. Like what he wrote was so obviously trying to be like Kerouac or Hunter Thompson that it was inevitable people are going to take it at face value to some degree.
We should talk about that for a second, because it does really, I'm surprised we haven't touched on this before. It really does center itself in that genre. Like the opening sentence was what like really jazzed my friends about it when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a friend who was going through some sobriety, you know, transitioning into sobriety, I guess we would say.
Yes.
When this book came out. And he was really taken with it. He was like, I've never read anything like it. Because the first sentence is like, I wake to the drone of an airplane engine and the feeling of something warm dripping down my chin. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, we were somewhere out on the edge of Barstow when the drugs began to take hold. You know, it's very much in that tradition. Like, we're just going to jam you into it. And for like 4 pages, it's actually fairly well written. And then it all just goes straight to shit.
Yeah.
When it's a road story, it's very compelling. It is very quickly not a road story.
Yeah.
And that meter added a level of urgency and readability that, despite him not using quotations or like introducing too many characters, so who the fuck is talking?
Yeah.
That kind of covered up for it. But 30 pages in, it became like pulling out all of your eyelashes.
Yeah.
And it's surprising to me, as somebody who is like knows the industry, that one, he didn't have an editor, and two, sorry, all the shade, hypothermic shade, but two, that they didn't actually cover their asses here.
Well, here's the thing, right? Is that, like, once again, I said there's two competing stories here. And so what we've heard is kind of the author's version of things. His agent now says that Frey told her it was a completely true story of his addiction and recovery. And she said that James raised the issue of whether he could publish it as an autobiographical novel only, he said, to spare his family undue embarrassment, not because it wasn't true. So if that's the case, then we're right back to like dangerously irresponsible and basically a con job. So like, I don't know if this show is the best place to like litigate those kind of allegations, but like, it's fascinating nonetheless.
I do just want to say, bro, your family is embarrassed of you because you're a chode.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not you write anything.
I actually do believe the second one, because there isn't a fundamental disclaimer of memoirs that normally is kind of slapped in there.
Yeah, and I mean, Frey himself, like, even kind of got words of kind of support later on from people like Norman Mailer, who like made a living out of kind of exaggerating true stories. So
another wonderful, noble white man.
Yeah, exactly. But I will still go to bat for the Executioner song. I thought it was fascinating. But anyway, so we talked about the Smoking Gun article just to kind of get back on track here. So basically it was found that the inciting incident of this book, which is this giant brawl that our main character here, James Frey, has with cops. He hits a cop with his car, and then the cop calls for backup, and he jumps out of his car and gets in a fist fight with like 13 cops that beat him down with fucking billy clubs.
And this is what's going to send him. This is what's going to send him away to the big house, to federal prison.
I mean, yeah,
for years. Because you shouldn't hit a cop with your car and expect no legal consequences.
Right.
So the Smoking Gun finds out that what actually happened was driving about 5 miles an hour, he jumped a curb and hit a telephone pole. A police officer came to the side of his car to talk to him, saw a bottle of Pabst Blue Ribbon that was open in between the two seats in the front.
My man.
Gave him a breathalyzer test, at which it was determined he was slightly drunk. Taken to jail and released on bail less than 2 hours later.
I mean, yeah, if he was drinking Pabst, that's true.
So this somehow becomes this huge fucking like Charles Bronson like Death Wish style like brawl with the cops in the book, and it's just like, oh man.
I mean, I've played this particular xylophone solo before, and I apologize for playing it again, but like whether or not his stories are true, the character is telling you that the stories are true because he thinks they're going to impress you and are cool.
Yeah.
And that's enough to judge this person. And if you're going to judge this person, I would like to fall back on my role model, Nelson Monks, and just say, ha ha.
I agree, and normally I'm a really big fan of not judging the author, except for when we do shit like about like that book by the Fat Jew on Twitter, where it's just really hard to separate. In this case, there's something I want to mention that you
in case
brought
you
up.
don't know, that's his pen name.
Yeah, we didn't do that. That's
No, that's literally what this man calls himself. Also, like I'm a chubby Jew, so it's pretty close.
His name is Joshua.
Yeah, Joshua. Anyway, so we were pretty harsh on him, but I feel like he deserves it. I kind of feel like James Frey deserves it too, especially just because of this one thing I learned. And it's something you mentioned earlier that I wanted to put a pin in, that talked about his girlfriend in junior high that was killed in a car accident. And according to Frey, it happens because he went out and was dropped off at the bowling alley or the movie theater by his girlfriend's parents. And she ended up leaving with a cool jock who drank and drive, and they got hit by a car, and she died, and the jock didn't. But the whole town turned against him because he must have been the bad influence that caused her to drink. And what's super fucked up about this is that, like, A, that didn't happen. But, like, B, what did happen was that in his hometown, like, about a year before his story happened, a very similar thing happened with two girls that he went to high school with, one of which, who was named Michelle, was a person that he had kind of a acquaintance type relationship with. However, like, the other person in the car was another girl. There was no like driving of him and her, like, to the point where people have asked her parents, and her parents are even like, I don't know if my daughter even knew that guy. So like, he wrote himself into a literal tragedy that happened in his high school, like, just for the sake of this book. And that is creepy enough for me to just be like, dude, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, he names names. He names the actual name of this girl who died, puts himself in the story in a way that, like, everyone who knows him is like, that's not true. And then makes that, like, one of the reasons that he's so fucked up in his memoir.
This book has definitely ruined my brain, because all I could think while you were, like, saying all of that, after every phrase, I wanted somebody to come in, and I wanted a specific person to come in and just say, like a chump. Like a chump.
Exactly.
Like, every single thing that you find out about this guy makes him seem more like a protagonist of a nu metal song, not a writer of a bad novelistic memoirish novel.
That
Like-
is just creepy to insert
Yeah.
yourself in someone else's tragedy and then put it in your memoir.
like a chump.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
Yeah, it's very interesting to kind of hear his sort of defense of this indefensible thing that he has done, where he said, "Well, I was very used to lying, and this was an extension of lying." And that's such a dude writer thing to say. I'm a professional liar. Like, fuck you. This is not marketing copy. You're
Yeah.
fucking with people's lives. Like, there is a certain level of credibility and ownership that needs to kind of be taken here. And so his big thing was that he was like, I'm used to writing about, like, lying about things, and I was writing about a character that I made up while I was in rehab in order to survive it, which should have been a moderately interesting memoir, which is more than what we've got here. To actually kind of like deal with, but he's like, but I didn't write about me. I wrote about this character, which was very clear, I think.
But the biggest problem though is that like interesting books have been written about rehab
Yeah.
and about mental institutions and about prison and
100%.
everything else, except that I don't think he's read any of them.
No.
no.
Like
He's
this is-
seen one Flew Over the Cuckoo's
Yes.
Nest way too many times.
This
Yeah.
book is basically One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest mixed with, like, I don't know, maybe I think Girl Interrupted came out after this.
Yeah.
So I don't think he saw that.
Well,
he definitely
actually,
saw.
the book would have come out before the movie would have come out, probably around this time.
He definitely saw 12 Monkeys.
He definitely saw 12 Monkeys. He definitely heard about Leaving Las Vegas, which I think I've talked about before, because the two most sort of visceral scenes from this are straight rips from Leaving Las Vegas, which actually is a novel based on a guy's life and written by a guy who actually factually did drink himself to death, and is both a book and a movie I will never subject myself to again, because they are too upsetting.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I am a delicate snowflake. And this book is a pile of shit that I will also never subject myself to, because, by the way, this is 450
pages
long.
Oh, God, it is. And I felt every single one of them like a slap across the chest.
This was the first one in a long time that I was pretty sure I wasn't going to finish. I did finally finish it, but it took, I mean, you mentioned unsubscribing from email lists.
Yep.
My tub got cleaned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I changed the sheets.
Yep.
Like, there are things in my house that have been cleaned with a toothbrush now that have never been cleaned before.
I considered washing my walls.
I've been playing a lot of Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing that in between reading chapters of this. I want to call out two more things before we go to break and come back with some games. The first one is I just do want to talk about one of the things that Frey mentions a lot in the book is that when he was in college, he was dealing weed and the FBI got called in because of his frequent trips to Ecuador that had nothing to do with dealing weed, man. He's just from a rich family and he was
Yeah,
going on
exactly.
vacation. And so
it is worth noting he at no point has a job anywhere in this novel.
He humble brags about wealth a lot for somebody who should know that that's not a humble brag.
But yeah, so the smoking gun in the article we mentioned previously got in touch with the chief of police at the time in the town that Frey mentions, and he says that calling Frey's account of the drug probe and his supposed chief role in it bullshit, Bear told the smoking gun that Granville police were simply trying to make nickel bag drug cases. While he wished the case had an exotic South American angle to it, as Frey tried to make it seem in a million little pieces, Bear said the probe was small potatoes. We were trying to buy baggies of pot. The university, Bear said, was not filled with roughnecks and drug toughs. A Denison gang would be, quote-unquote, wearing khakis and blue sport blazers. We're not talking Detroit here, he added. It's like Biff and Buffy saying, I think we should steal a stop sign.
Wow.
Okay, my backhand was good. That backhand was better.
Wait, did the chief of police just make a Buffy reference?
He did.
Apparently he did. And the other thing I just wanted to point out here is that in a bunch of the articles about, the more kind of glowing articles about James Frey that were released before people started to discredit him, they talked about a tattoo he has on his wrist that says FTBSITTTD, which stands for fuck the bullshit, it's time to throw down.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What?
What? How many letters are in there?
It's a lot. It's FTBSITTTTD. Fuck the bullshit. It's time to throw down. And
You don't put its and things like that
No.
into abbreviations.
and also he made bullshit 2 words in his abbreviation for BS.
That doesn't work, yeah.
But
Is that real? Have we checked that?
yeah, no, this is real, and the reason I mention it is because it was brought up frequently when people would compare him to Dave Eggers, which apparently really pissed him off. And in
Dave
Barnes
Eggers
and
gives back to the community and seems like a humble guy. Fuck that. That
Well,
pisses me off.
I really enjoyed his movie.
in a Barnes and Noble Meet the Writers interview, when someone asked about Dave Eggers and how he was one of the most celebrated literary figures of their generation, his response was "fuck that" and "fuck him." So
That's actually the most likable thing I've ever heard about
I mean,
James
I'm
Frey.
just saying Eggers probably shouldn't be driving around town with the girl he loves. But
Forget you.
But I do just want to say, like, if you come to my reading and you ask about some other guy,
Yeah.
I am well within my rights to say fuck him and fuck you.
and you need backup dancers to go woo hoo hoo
Yeah.
after you do it. But yeah, no, the Gnarls Barkley element of that reply just really hit home to me.
Yeah.
Any other loose ends we want to tie up here before we take a break and come back for games?
This did nothing to James's career, actually.
Yeah.
He went on to have several successful best-selling novels after this, and now is one of 7 writers who works on some sort of a young adult money printing, money laundering situation.
Well, maybe now's a good time to peel back the curtain. Lauren, what is the shirt you're wearing right now say?
Lord, give me the confidence of a mediocre white man.
That is this man's career summed
Yeah.
up in a t-shirt slogan. So,
I'm also
like, I
drinking
don't know
arrogant bastard ale, so I went like full blown on the nose.
I don't know if that was intentional or not, but you have summed up this
It
book with your
was.
sartorial choice. So.
Jesus. Accessorizing as criticism, you can read my Baffler magazine article about it next month. Actually, you can't, because for various reasons I will never be published in Baffler magazine.
All right. Let's take a break and come back with games. All right, so it's time. It's time to play some games. Let's go ahead and get started with the most dramatic, completely fabricated game in podcasted history. Podcast in history. Dramatic readings.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
We're going to read it to you deep, dark, and deep, and slow, and true.
Well, that was creepy. So, dramatic readings, we're going to take parts of this book and read them to you and try to make them sound real good. Lauren, as the guest, I believe it's your turn to go first.
All right, I will read the segment that made me the most mad.
Okay, perfect.
Now, I would like to say that there are no quotation marks. I have no idea who is talking. Have you seen Larry? No. His stuff is gone. I haven't seen him. We think he left. I don't know what to tell you. We're going to find the counselors, capitalized, to tell them. If you see him, will you send him after us? Yeah. They leave, and I walk to my bed as I put on my clothes. I think about Larry. He's gone. Definitely gone, and definitely not coming back. He's out, alone in the cold, probably on the highway, carrying his bags, his thumb out and raised. He's thinking of his wife and his beautiful little girls. He wants to see them and hold them and hug them and kiss them. He wants to tell them that he's sorry and that everything is all right, that he's ready to be the husband and father he knows he could have been. He's praying that they don't have what he has, because if they do, they're dead. Maybe not tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, but sooner or later they're dead, and they're dead because of him. Bless you, Larry. My thoughts are with you. May you make it home safe. May your wife and daughters be HIV negative. May the rest of your days on this earth be the happiest you've known. Bless you, Larry. Bless you.
Church.
This makes me so angry.
I haven't enjoyed someone yelling at Larry so much since it was John Goodman yelling in The Big Lebowski.
Well, that is what you get when you find a stranger in the Alps. So.
Is this your homework, Larry? May you and your children be HIV negative, Larry.
Collision. Dramatic reading. Can you handle it?
I can. I don't think you can.
I think that's true.
I listen to the leaves. I stare at the ground. I try to lose myself. I try to forget where I am and why I'm here. I try to forget about what lies in front of me. I try to forget about death, prison, and recovery. I try to forget that there is a world outside of that which is in my head, and I try to forget that there is a world within my head. I try to forget everything, the whole fucking mess. I walk, stare, try to lose, try to lose, try to lose. The packed dirt continues to bog, and I step onto an elevated walk of faded pine, embedded screws, and tall, firm rails. The deep stench of swamp seeps up and through, too strong to be killed by the cold. As I walk, I lean over the rail, and I breathe in stench, and I stare across a murky brown desolation dotted with rotting chunks of tree, turf, and prickly gray shrub. There's an island among the rot, a large, round pile with monstrous protrusions like the arms of a witch.
Lovecraftian.
There is chatter beneath the pile, and a fat brown otter with a flat, armored tail climbs atop, and he stares at me. Hey, fat otter. He stares at me. You want what I got? He stares at me. I'll give you everything. Stares at me. Give me your pile and give me your tail. Stares. And I'll give you the whole fucking mess. Stares. What do you think? He sits and he stares, seems to consider, and he disappears back under the pile. I wait for him to come back, but he doesn't. You're a smart otter. A smart fucking otter.
Whoa.
I'm gonna bet James Frey is really good at sex.
Fuck, he just owned that otter, though.
I was getting some real Emerson, Lake and Palmer Targus vibes there. Is that the name of the album that has the armadillo?
Targus, yeah. The armored armadillo. Yeah, he really knows how beavers and otters work.
And how to fight with them sufficiently.
Yeah. Like, wow, he's tough.
It's suddenly Watership Down.
Watership Down is a modern classic, man.
Bruh.
It's getting intense in here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, time for me to read dramatically. This is a moment of celebration for our hero, mafioso Leonard, who is totally not Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
Anyone seen Leonard? The men look at each other. Anyone? They shake their heads.
Bueller.
Anyone? Lincoln smiles, raises his voice. Leonard. He does it again, but louder. Leonard! He yells. Leonard! Down one of the halls, music starts playing. It's the theme song from a famous boxing movie about an unknown palooka from Philadelphia who almost wins the heavyweight championship. All of the men smile, a few laugh. The music comes closer, gets louder, and everyone turns towards a doorway through which Leonard, in a bright white suit, comes bursting out. He has a small boombox in one of his hands. The other is raised in a fist above his head. There is cheering, laughing. A few men throw candy wrappers or pieces of paper at him. He stands next to Lincoln, turns off the boombox, motions for silence. When it comes, he speaks. We have cause for celebration, my friends. There's more cheering. Leonard waits for it to stop, and then he speaks again. Early yesterday, I was told by our friend Lincoln that tomorrow I will be set free. In honor of that, and in honor of all of you, and in honor of this place tonight, we feast. More cheering. Leonard and Lincoln smile. When the cheering stops, Leonard speaks. I've had steaks and lobsters brought in from Minneapolis. We'll have apple pie and ice cream for dessert. And in between, we will watch the World Heavyweight Championship. The men go wild, cheering and yelling and clapping. They start rushing down to thank Leonard and Lincoln and shake their hands. As they do, the sliding glass doors open and the caterers start bringing in large plates of porterhouse steaks, boiled lobsters, baked potatoes, and huge bowls of Caesar salad. They set them on the banquet tables, and lines form immediately.
Wow, Caesar
So
salad.
good.
Wow.
Everything about that scene is just chef kissing fingertips, especially because okay, Leonard is apparently Philly Boy Roy from a Sharpling and Worcester Best Show Call because he has his own boombox. By the way, nobody else in rehab has a boombox. Somehow also has a tape of the Rocky theme.
Yes.
No,
just a popular movie about
From
a
Philly,
politician.
in which a boxer
Yeah.
is from Philly. Phillying.
Yeah. There's a moment a little bit later where, so James has attained white zen through the course of it, and he's looking at his meal, which is explicitly a porterhouse steak and a lobster, and he's like, "What I have will suffice." I'm like, you think, motherfucker,
That's
a porterhouse
also-
and lobster will suffice?
That's why I go to Outback Steakhouse a couple times a month. Just, hang out at the bar.
Get that surf and turf?
Yeah, get a steak and a lobster. It's like $30.
Right.
And I'm like, this alone will suffice every time. So
Yeah, you're like,
I understand.
truly, I have given up on the material world. I need nothing more than a porterhouse and a lobster.
Draw that butter, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Upper middle class white kid goes to rehab, reads the I Ching, and becomes a libertarian. His song as old as rhyme.
Also, Fat Tony. Sorry, I mean Leonard, because he's definitely not at all Fat Tony from The Simpsons. Is going to be released the next day.
Yeah, that's
This is a voluntary rehab where people can just leave.
Yeah.
right.
So
I actually kind of want to talk about that a little bit, as again, to bring it all down, bring the party on down.
No, it's fair.
As somebody who's, again, been very close to somebody who's been through rehab, that's not the approach at all. It's not fun. People want to leave all the time, and yet it's still not framed ever in that device.
Yeah, and our hero, the first thing he does when he leaves is goes to a bar and orders a drink so he can smell it but not drink it, which
No.
seems like
Don't do this. Please don't do
yeah.
this.
the most dangerous thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, it's...
But-
yeah.
but he's big swinging Dick James Frey.
Good
That's
point.
true. Yeah.
He doesn't need your 12 steps.
Ugh.
He's got
One.
willpower, baby.
Mind
Oh,
over
man.
And he
matter or
doesn't
some
want his
shit.
parents to bail him out anymore after they're finished paying for rehab. He doesn't need his parents because his brother's going to pick him up from rehab.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Let's not get dark again. Let's roll into another game here. I believe we have a what is your fave?
We do.
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
All right.
Okay, so I worked really hard on this, and by worked really hard on this, I mean one of the many things I did to kill time instead of read this book is YouTube it up and relive all the biggest hits of the mid-aughts.
Yikes.
And I realized while doing this that almost all of the grim, dark, giant hits of the I guess what we could call the Hot Topic era have the same content, what little of it is in this book. But they put it into 4 minutes, and sometimes a really killer video. So, what is your fave completely ludicrous song that was an inexplicable giant hit that actually covers the emotional content of this book, but is mercifully much, much, much shorter? And if you need some prompts, I've got a couple candidates. For me, there would be 4 possible songs that could exhaust the meaning of this book. One would be Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. That video is awesome, by the way. Finger 11's Immortal One Thing.
No.
Just One Thing.
Yeah.
Anything by Stained. Because it's Been a while.
Nope.
No.
Or Wheatus's Immortal Teenage Dirtbag.
All right, I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go way off script here. I'm gonna say it's Third Eye Blind, Semi-Charmed Life.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Used in shopping montages.
Yeah, but it's actually a super dark song about meth addiction.
It's
It
all
is.
about smoking crystal meth and falling asleep while you're having sex and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
And I feel like it does. It covers the entire emotional range of this book with a catchy little tune. So yeah, Third Eye Blind, Semi-Charmed Life. That's the one for me.
Fair enough.
I was going to say that Headstrong song. Or the band now
The band
escapes
is not called Headstrong. You just mean the song that's like, Headstrong,
I'll take on anyone.
Yeah.
That one. I don't think it's Breaking Benjamin, but it's like something like that. It's like Bowling for Todd or something.
Headstrong.
No, wait. We've got to talk about Bowling for Todd.
Look, I don't make fun of your band. And like, to be honest, Bowling for Todd was a way better name than our previous name, Frittata. So...
And then what was it?
I believe
Everything You Want. That one where it's like the friend zone song.
Oh, I don't even know that song. And I believe that Headstrong was by Head PE. That's HED space capital P capital E.
Yeah, they were a stealth Christian group also, by the way.
Is it like Christian Sidehug, Stealth Christian?
Yeah, they were like part of that.
Paramore was a part of that too.
Yeah, they were part of that weird like mid-aughts like
Reliant
stealth
K, all that
Christian
shit, yeah.
revolution. Yeah.
Oh, Switchfoot.
Yeah.
Switchfoot. That's right.
Yellow Card, I believe, also.
Yeah.
Yellow Card
Yeah.
is yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, all of these bands are from Ohio.
I once was privileged to see the band Chevelle live and in concert. They had two hits.
Red filters through.
One was Send the Pain Below, which I would often sing Send the Pain Behind because I'm hilarious. And I can't even remember the other song, but I actually called my buddy with my Nokia candy bar phone and just like aimed it at the band during Send the Pain Below so he could hear it, because it was just a ridiculous experience and I wanted to share it.
Nothing like the days of going to concerts, ironically.
Actually, early
Look,
Fall Out Boy would fall in this
We got to go
category, too.
free, you know? It was
okay.
like a friend of a friend knew somebody who worked at the club,
Yeah.
you know? And it was like, I like 2 Chevelle songs. I'll sit through a fucking
Yeah,
show for
sure,
that.
absolutely. Teach me more.
Perhaps we should play one more game and get a little bit of distance from 2005's most mediocre chart toppers.
Yeah.
And this is a little question I'd like to ask you guys about the world's most famous fan.
Oh, damn.
The rich and the famous, but they read books too. The rich and the famous, but they're only a little better than you.
We never hear that song. And what that means is we need to try to figure out who the most famous fan of this book is.
Yeah.
Collision, I'm going to let you lead off because I have a feeling you're prepared.
A little bit. I thought about this for a while, and like about halfway through, I realized how lucky we were that there was a giant controversy that kind of tarnished the reputation of this book.
Yeah.
Because I believe that is the only thing that saved us from a Johnny Depp vehicle where he's in rehab, just like Johnny Depping his pointy little face off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He does have an acorn head.
This
Yeah.
was originally optioned for a movie, and then that exploded when people found out it was not true.
Right.
Yeah.
When people were just like, wow, this is just a boring book instead of like a riveting true story.
But I believe the names associated with it were more along the lines of like Topher Grace.
I mean, to go back to the American Beauty Harvey Picar, well, like if you threw, what's his ass? Oh, shit, what's his name? The guy who played Harvey Picar.
Paul Giamatti?
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
threw Paul Giamatti in this, I would watch that.
As Leonard?
Probably. No.
Oh,
As James.
There is
They
an
just get him
aesthetic
like a new
similarity.
hairpiece.
There is. Like, I would watch that. The only other fan...
Give Paul Giamatti some knuckle tats, you've got James Frey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I would listen to Paul Giamatti. Like, Paul, I love you. Call me and just read into my voicemail fuck the bullshit. It's time to throw down. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to hear that. The only other person that I can think of that might be a famous fan of this, like, we haven't even touched on this, but this book is the most repetitive thing. There's about 7 million pages of it.
It's tedious.
That are him waking up, throwing up, taking a shower, looking at himself in the mirror, judging what he sees, going downstairs to have some coffee. Black coffee. I take it black. It was hot and black and good and burned my throat, but it was good. The only person that I think might like this book who is famous just based on his coffee love would be Henry Rollins.
Yeah.
I think poor Rollins might actually be a famous fan of this book.
Yeah, I mean, this book has a leitmotif, like, which is literally, I am an alcoholic and I am a drug addict and I am a criminal, and that is repeated like about over 100 times in this
I'm a
book.
criminal.
Yep.
Which is a third tier
It's an Eminem track.
song.
Yeah.
Also, the cadence of this book, like he's constantly describing himself, like I was this, I was that, I was the other thing, and I could not hear Mom's spaghetti.
Yeah.
At
No,
the end of every one of those.
There's the fundamental structural flaws of this book, lying aside, are that it's in first person. There's an introduction of entirely too many characters. There's not enough distinction between those characters, and he is forced to go and do horrible, unreadable shit because it is a tedious story, because that's how rehab works, and it's in first person. So there's no reflection. There's no greater self.
What? It's like
But also it's bad.
It's like an idiot telling a boring story. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to most famous fans. Do you
Sorry.
guys think that there might be a famous fan of the book?
Tori Amos, maybe.
Oh.
What?
That's
No way. No way.
Oprah.
Well, yeah, that's definitely the obvious choice.
I think her relationship with this book is a matter of public record and what would we say, conflicted?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an interesting one. It's Lindsay Lohan, because in real life, she is actually a huge fan of this book and of James Frey, and is like one of his adamant defenders. So, like, yeah, like, she was continuing to go around with him on his publicity tours and stuff long after he was discredited.
Just realized that he looks exactly like her dad.
Ooh, you're right. He does.
What kind of world? Who are you people? Who knows what Lindsay Lohan's dad looks like?
I will bring it up for you. Because they
Well, he
were
was
writing
famous,
poems
too.
to each other
Yeah.
in the newspaper.
How
It was the
was
whole
Lindsay
thing.
Lohan's dad famous? Her mom was the stage mom?
He's famous for being Lindsay Lohan's dad.
Yeah,
dude.
so there's that. Then he also went to rehab and then wrote her a response to one of her songs in the paper.
Lindsay Lohan had songs?
Yeah, she had a music career. You missed it.
Does she have bars?
No.
No.
She had auto-tune cranked up pretty heavily.
Can she two-hand tap and like rock out a wicked
Oh, no,
solo?
it's all terrible.
No, you're thinking of Jennifer Batten. Anyway. That was a bit of an 80s hair metal joke. Let's take a break.
So what I'm doing for this one is playing an E minor blues scale. Jumping strings from the A to the G to the E. And an E minor 7 arpeggio. Pull off to the open E string.
A Million Little Pieces. We did it. We talked about it.
Should you read this book about rehab? No. But
Yeah, I agree.
perhaps there are some other things that you could read. Does anybody have any recommendations they would like to give?
So, I mean, other than like Golf magazine or possibly the back of a cereal box or maybe the contents of a hot sauce, what you might consider reading if you're looking for an actual book to replace this piece of garbage is, I actually thought Girl Interrupted would be a very good one. It sort of kind of revolves around the same narrative of being in kind of a ostracized community, similar to, it's an asylum versus rehab, but it's, I think, done a lot better, and I think gives more credence and more texture to the characters within it. And while they're, it's just, I think it's just a better book. It's just a good book. You should read it. That.
I can dig it.
Awesome.
Jay, you got one?
I do. I just want to recommend a book here called Best Seat in the House. It is by Justin Roberts. He is a WWE announcer that retired a while ago. And it's not necessarily well written or anything, but what is really refreshing about it is it's about a dude who was just a big fan of something all his life and then got a chance to do it for a living. And his excitement comes through. Also, it ties back to the episode we did about Bob Hawley's story, the Hardcore Truth. I believe it was called. And in that episode, there were a lot of stories from Bob himself talking about how he hates bullies.
I mean, this book, A Million Little Pieces, is the hardcore truth. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I
Well,
right?
this fellow Bob Holly, he spent a lot of time in the book that we talked about describing how he hates bullies. He's mentioned here in Justin Roberts' book as a few other guys had more on their mind, namely making my life miserable. Bob Holly didn't like me very much. He modified his ring entrance every night to include knocking me out of my chair. It was only 3 shows a week, but they were pretty far apart, and it felt like 3 weeks. So, yep, that's the man who hates bullies, which, once again, as we talked about before, I just thought it was a good kind of tie-in. But also, it's just an entertaining book if you're a wrestling fan like me, so check that out.
And in hell, you're probably stuck in a car with Bob Holly and James Frey on a road trip.
Yeah. And maybe Gary Steingart.
Oh, it just smells like a freshly opened can of Spam.
Or like a Reuben sandwich that like someone tried to save, but you can't save that for later.
Out in the rain.
Yeah. I'll never make that recipe again.
I'm gonna go a little off script. I've had a shitty year of reading.
I know.
I have barely read anything not for the podcast, and I think it's starting to wreck me.
Yeah.
Brain wise, soul wise, heart wise. But
Maybe it's time to do some seasons.
maybe it's time for me to quit Twitter and read a book every now and again.
Might be better.
But I have been semi keeping up on my periodicals, and there's a pretty interesting article in the last Harper's. I think it's available online as well. But if it's not, spend fucking $20. Subscribe to Harper's, you cheap fucks. It's by Sayward Darby, which is a world-class amazing name.
And I'm sure the name someone was born with.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was.
Oh, okay.
I think this... Anyway, Sayward Darby, it's called The Rise of the Valkyries, about the women of the alt-right. And, it's not actually that kind of New York Times-ish, we sent somebody to talk to some Trump voters, waka waka. It's actually a pretty interesting deep dive. And it taught me a bunch of shit I didn't know. So subscribe to Harper's and learn stuff.
Does it explain why the frog is racist? Because I still don't understand why the frog is racist.
The frog is racist because it was adopted as a logo by a bunch of racist assholes. The frog itself is not racist.
Oh, well, fuck them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, the artist of the frog is quite distraught.
Yeah, I really feel bad for that guy because I do remember seeing the frog pre-racist. And pre-racist. Well, you know what I mean.
It's a little bit like the guy that with the alpha wolf thing.
Yeah.
It's just...
Why?
But I literally spent my morning rallying against those assholes. Let's not talk about them anymore today.
Yeah, good point. Let's roll on here and do some letters.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter... Got a lot of letters.
I understand we've got a lot of letters.
So many. So many. But of those, we are going to read today but one. And this is from Sarah, fake last name. And Sarah writes, Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
Sarah. Fake last name.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Good enough.
That was awful.
Sorry, everybody.
By the way, if you want to come see us do improv, we're called Mixed Nuts, and we perform every week down at the Fisherman's Wharf. So,
Yeah, until we're pelted with so much fish, we have to go home. Sometime listener, first-time caller, and recent Crab Riders local T-shirt owner.
woo woo.
And that is how you get a letter read, kids. I discovered your podcast a few months ago and have been steadily working through the backlog while I do the boring data entry parts of my job. Same, actually.
Pour one out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a librarian at a research library with a religious affiliation, so I come across the weird and the bad every day. I've amassed a collection at my desk of the best of the worst before they got thrown out. Highlights include, and I'm sorry, I'm going to edit this just so we get just the titles because I think that's richer.
Okay.
Is your family turned on and turned on by God? What about teenage marriage? You can trust the communists to be communists.
You can, actually.
Well, ain't that some shit?
None of these quite fit with the podcast, but I couldn't keep them to myself. Fuck, I am so glad you did not keep those to yourself.
I know, I needed these.
And finally, a burning question. If you were a book-themed wrestler, what would your names be? And what would your best lines and your signature moves be? Thanks for everything you do, Sarah. Fake last name. This might be the best letter we've ever gotten.
This is a really good question. I don't know if I want to go first because I have to put some thought into it. Collision, you need to go first because you've had plenty of time to put thought into it.
All I know about this is that I would definitely... I've always known that I would be the chicken shit heel. I would come down just giving everybody finger guns with a big shit-eating grin on my face, and my entrance music would be Reelin' in the Years, because that is the most annoying song that has ever been written. I would kind of like annoying skip down while giving finger guns. So I think I might just be like the reader, you know? And, you know, the gimmick would probably just be like, instead of I'm straight edge, so I'm better than you, it's like I read books. I'm smarter than you.
Man, yeah. Keeping it simple.
Yeah, and I think I'd play keeping it kind of like 80s WWE style, like the Repo Man.
Yeah.
The guy who works for the IRS. The reader. And I guess probably, you know, I don't think I would be a very good wrestler, so I don't think I would get to use my finishing move too often. So it would have to be something pretty simple. So it would have to be like the final page. And it would be like, you know, something into a bad DDT. You know what I mean? So it'd be like a slap on the chest into a DDT or something.
So you pretty much described the Authors of Pain, current NXT gimmick. But
you know, the real author of Pain is James Frey to me.
Yeah, that's very true. For me, I think I would be Kid Caulfield, master of 1,000 Holdens. And
this will be the last episode, folks.
Sorry. But yeah, I'd be an extreme technical mat wrestler, and my whole deal would be that I'd call everyone else phony all the time. Yeah. So yeah, that's my literary wrestling gimmick.
You would be like
Indies. I'm available. I'm completely untrained.
Totally.
And I'm kind of chubby.
Okay, so what would your best line be though? Like your signature, like. I mean, besides you're a phony, I think you would probably be a tag team wrestler, but your gimmick would be you would never tag anybody because you just want to be left alone.
That's true. It's like Raven, basically. Yeah. It would just be what about me kind of shit. Fuck. What about Holden? Kid Caulfield. The lone wolf.
Oh my God. Would your manager would be your tiny little sister who you never actually pay attention to or let talk.
Oh, I love it.
Ooh, that would be good. Or it could just be like a weird Southern gentleman named J.D. Salisbury.
Who hides in New Hampshire until his death.
Your finishing move would be like the Rye Catcher. So you start in a squat, and then it's just like, I don't know, a can opener or something.
Yeah, and it has something to do with Ryback. Wow. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Warren, what is... all right.
So I have a wrestling podcast in which I am the wrestling widow who's trying to learn how to care. So I'm going to feel my way through this. It's called Glow the Distance. You should all check it out.
It's a good show.
I was going to come on here and be an asshole and say that my name was going to be Diablo Cody.
Oh my God, Cody Diablo is right there.
Yeah, that is a great women's wrestling name.
But I'm going to go with like Anne of Green Grapples. And
that's good.
Thank you. And then my big move will be like called the Lady of Shalott, in which I like flip you over and into a river and then you float away for attention.
Whoa.
That's a joke for like one person, but I want you to know that I see you and I know you and I love you.
I'm a glow wrestler, Kate's Bush. My finishing move is a high knee to the chin, and it's called Running Up the Hill.
I liked all of that except the name.
I am so but I'm so proud of my one Kate Bush impression.
Yeah.
By the way, a couple of weeks ago, for the first time, I heard "Wuthering Heights." That fucking song is just
Garbage.
"Wuthering Heights." No, it's a great song, but it's,
No, it's
just
not.
"Wuthering."
Rejection.
Oh God, it's amazing. Have you guys heard Kate Bush?
Yes.
I-
No,
I-
Kate Bush is great.
I
She's
haven't-
like Evanescence with songs.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show, but once I went to visit my mom in suburban Florida a couple years ago and went to a bar that was attached to a Holiday Inn near her house. And there was an acoustic guitar duo that was like a fella and a woman, and they were playing Evanescence covers on
my God.
acoustic guitar.
So
They
next,
played Bring Me to Life or whatever that song is called, but all on acoustic guitar.
next time that happens, I need you to call me on your cell
I was
phone
on your
telephone
Nokia brick.
and just like hold it up so I can hear it.
It was pretty great. Like the guy was doing all the screaming parts, but it was with acoustic guitar in
Right.
this room where people were playing pool and stuff.
That sounds. I mean, there is a non-zero chance that was an Evanescence show. They're not as big as they once were.
I guess that is a possibility. Now that you mention it, I may have just seen like an unbilled surprise Evanescence show.
I think they were also a stealth Christian band.
Oh, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
tend to associate a lack of quality.
It's complicated.
I see. A complicated
Is-
relationship with Jesus
It's
Christ.
complicated. Yeah. The best thing about Evanescence is I was a bouncer for a while. And as a not very successful bouncer, if it was slow, I would occasionally betake myself over to the jukebox and try to annoy people / make myself happy. And I saw an Evanescence song that I'd never heard once called "Call Me When You're Sober."
Yep, that one.
Which is, I'm sorry, that's an underratedly great song.
That could almost
actually.
be viewed as a companion piece to that lit "My Own Worst Enemy."
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a response song.
Yeah.
or to this.
Or to A Million Little Pieces.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of the less functional drunks who hung out at the bar was sitting next to my like bouncer stool, and he was like, "See, that's the problem with this chick, man. I never call her when I'm sober." And I was just like,
Wow.
"Buddy, you don't call anybody, and nobody answers if you do."
The problem is that by 8 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah, you're no longer sober. Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway.
that was a long story about Evanescence.
man, it got kind of dark, just like this shitty.
We
book
wanted to talk
talked
about anything other than this book, is
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah, so thanks for writing in, and if you want to keep in touch with us, it's IDEO TV Pod at Twitter and Facebook, where I don't even own a television at gmail.com is the email.
Yep.
Lauren, if people want to keep in touch with what you're up to and what you're doing, how would they do that?
Well, they can find me at Lauren Inc. They can also subscribe to Glow the Distance, and we'd love to hear from you. So we're in all the places called Glow the Distance. Also, if you pledge my Patreon, I will write a personalized letter on a piece of the first edition A Million Little Pieces about why you're better than James Frey.
Oh.
So, see ya. It's patreon.com/Lauren Parker.
An offer that can be cashed in sight unseen, because if you're anybody but James Frey, you're better than James Frey.
100%. 100%.
Have you murdered several people in cold blood? If the answer is no, then you're probably better than James Frey.
and if the answer is yes, it's negotiable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's still a chance.
Have you murdered several people in cold blood? Okay, are you a boring motherfucker? No? Well, we can talk.
Yeah.
We
We
can
got
work
this.
through this.
It's like those car lots where they're like, no credit, bad credit.
Yeah.
We can figure it out. It's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing, but with, morality.
Bad person? Terrible person? What's it going to take to get you this letter?
Lauren, thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely. No, thank you for making me read this book.
This book sucked, guys.
This was excruciating.
Yeah, so on that note, I guess let's sign it off. Until next time, please, whatever you do, man, don't read this thing.
No. Ride the crab.
Ladies and gentlemen, I forgot my favorite man sitting over there. His name is
Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina, 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 Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina.
Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina, won't you quit
Flipping, then the army couldn't save you. Why don't you behave, you little rug rat? Take a little tip